Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and today it's time for us to review for you Windjammers 2 on the Nintendo Switch. After seeing the footage, you'll be pleased to hear that this review was originally written by the stupendous PJ O'Reilly, and not me, who is playing the game in the footage. I just went and did the video bit, didn't I? But anyway, that's more than enough waffling. Let's dive right into things. It's not an easy task to take a game as mechanically perfect as 1994's Neo Geo classic Windjammers and put your own spin on it. How do you modernize such a wonderfully simple and addictive thing? What do you change about it to give it a lift, to add even more in the way of strategy for fans to sink their teeth into without ruining the streamlined ebb and flow that makes the original so endlessly endearing? Well, somehow Dotemu has managed to find a way. Windjammers 2 is everything we love about the original game reimagined, emboldened, and delightfully expanded by a slick new art style and a bunch of new mechanics that make the core gameplay loop even more alluring than ever. Dotemu, you've probably noticed, has been on a bit of a roll lately, having published the excellent Wonder Boy the Dragon's Trap and the absolutely sublime Streets of Rage 4, and demonstrating just how good these folks are at taking classic gaming experiences and remodeling them for a new generation of gamers. They and the teams they partner with just seem to get it, tweaking and adding much-loved gems without betraying what makes them great in the first place. With Windjammers 2, Dotemu has given the chunky old Neo Geo graphics a facelift, perhaps the most divisive aspect of this new game, swapping out the beautiful pixels for old hand-drawn characters and stadiums that are a match for the artistic overhaul that we saw in Streets of Rage 4. We still love the old Windjammers style, and this new look does take a little getting used to, but give it a chance and we think you'll grow to love it. On top of the aesthetic refresh, there have also been some superb changes to the core mechanics of Windjammers. If the first game was like a frenzied mix of Pong and Street Fighter 2, this sequel definitely feels like a shift towards a full-blown tennis tactics with the same fighting game intensity left intact. There's now a jump function that enables you to smash shots from the air at your opponent, alongside a slap shot that carries your disc just over the net, making for a game that requires much more in the way of consideration of your play space, sucking your opponent into the net, lobbing them to the back of the court, lining them up for smashes, and so on and so forth. It's Windjammers as you remember it, but with so much more to think about at the same time. There's the all-new EX gauge as well, and it builds steadily as you pull off offensive and defensive maneuvers, and once full can be deployed in order to hit your opponent with a screen-blasting shot that's almost impossible to respond to. Almost. Yes, once you get used to these particular super shots, each of the 10 characters have their own variation, you'll be able to read the seemingly impossible returning shots back with equal ferocity in rallies that get harder and faster as they go on. Beautiful face-offs that require perfect timing and consideration of your surroundings such as these are absolutely necessary if you're to emerge victorious. There is nothing quite so satisfying as blasting a disc shot right into a corner here, timing your super so that your opponent has no chance, or drawing them in only to zigzag them into oblivion with a bevy of well-considered ripostes that land just out of their reach. Oh, it's outrageously addictive. Each of the 10 characters on the roster, 6 of them being returners, is slightly different in terms of their power and speed, just as in the original game, but now you also get to consider your favorite based on their specials. It's such a delicately handled shift in the core of proceedings. Old hands should be able to jump right in and get on with things, but there's so much more to learn now, and it hasn't affected the overall tempo or that perfect balance between pick-up and play and deep strategy that made the first game such a timeless banger. We haven't been able to play the online just yet, which is a bit of an issue as this is what will give the game real legs, and it's a shame that the Switch version doesn't support crossplay as it does on the Xbox and PC, but we have faith in it. Dotemu has done such a great job with everything else here that we reckon they'll go the distance and support the online aspects of this one as it deserves. I mean, they've certainly had the time. Windjammers was supposed to come out in 2019, wasn't it? So, blooming heck, let's hope so. In terms of the overall modes, if we're being picky, then you could say it's all a little bit anemic, with just a bare-bones arcade mode with 3 difficulty settings, the aforementioned online, and a versus mode that lets you take on the CPU or another human in local multiplayer. But listen, a vast suite of modes is the last thing Windjammers is really about. You don't need unlockable skins, trophies or achievements, or an in-game store, XP, skill trees, big towers to climb up, emojis, or any of that dross here. This is just pure arcade magic. You know, it's that just one more turn kind of stuff. Get some friends around for some games, argue about who's gonna play first. It's sweaty, strategic, beautiful arcade action, and it looks and plays like a dream. We've been swapping back and forth like mad during this review, switching between the original game and this new version to see what's changed, what's different, how one or the other is better or worse, and it speaks volumes about the quality of what Dotemu has produced here, that in every regard this sequel is an absolute improvement. An improvement over near arcade perfection. An improvement on a game that people have been playing and enjoying for 28 years. We'll take that. With Windjammers 2, Dotemu has taken the fiendishly addictive core formula of the Neo Geo classic and improved upon it in every way. The core gameplay here remains as immediately endearing as ever, whilst being enhanced and given a real strategic kick by a bevy of new moves and skills that add to the fun without detracting from or overcomplicating proceedings. Yes, there's not much in the way of modes, and we've yet to see how online fares here, but this is another banger from Dotemu, an all-time classic improved upon, an arcade classic refined for a new generation. You've reached the end of the review. That means it's time for Alex's personal thoughts, and yeah, this is just damn good fun, you know? I've heard loads about the original Windjammers over the years, you know, it's one of these things that's just held in extremely high regard, but I've never played it, and you know, so I was quite excited to give this one a go and see what all the fuss was about, and it really lives up to expectations. Although there is one element that I think is perhaps... The game isn't super complicated to play, but it is very old school in the way that it tells you what to do. There's no direct tutorial mode, just a sort of a series of images with how to play, which it explains everything in the game, but it doesn't contextualize things. I think it would be far better if there was just like just a tutorial mode where you're going up against the CPU and it takes you through the different shots, and you know, it gets you to perform them. When you do it correctly, it gives you a bit of bidding, you've done it right, and then moves on to the next kind of shot. And you know, all about deflecting and things like that, because just seeing things from a menu is probably fine for some people, but I imagine there's going to be quite a few people who are a little bit sort of like, I don't quite know what's going on here. Having said that, it doesn't take a huge amount of time to really understand what's going on and learn the ins and outs and bits and bobs, so it's by no means the end of the world. And when you do get your head around it, oh god blimey, this is just I mean, this is just stupidly good fun. As PJ said, things like the super shots initially seem, you know, like how on earth am I supposed to respond to that? But very quickly you'll learn what, at least, you know, your current opponent, what their, you know, shots are like and what to expect, and you can sometimes maybe you have to take a bit of a gamble depending on where you are on the court, but oftentimes you'll be able to start intercepting these, and it feels really good when somebody does this massive charge up and they unleash this massive attack, and then you just go bleh and catch it in the middle of the air. It's fantastic. And then it gets even better when you learn that you can respond with essentially, I mean, it's not the same kind of attack, but you know, an equally powerful but without the build-up kind of thing. So the opponent is immediately having to respond to you know, a super powerful shot from you, provided you can time it correctly, of course, and that is not easy. And yet they don't have the wind-up in order to have that kind of time to prepare, as it were. They need to be immediately ready. So you can really sort of put the thumb screws on them, and that's great. I'm still not very good at the game, as you've probably been able to tell from all the footage and everything, but even so, I'm still having an incredible amount of fun with it. I know that I've just repeated that line over and over again, but that's what it boils down to. This game is just damned good fun. It's just damned good fun. I would have liked to have seen a proper fleshed out tutorial mode, but at the same time, It's not like you're playing something like The Last of Us, where the controls change every 40 seconds or anything like that. It is, I mean, that's an exaggeration. I have played The Last of Us. When you get the controls down, it's so refined and so responsive that any mistake that you make is either going to be because you didn't respond in time, or you pressed the wrong button because you forgot which one to press now. I've done that a few times. But whichever way you slice it, if you're into your arcade action and, just one of those, pick up and play kind of thing, and then maybe you put it down for a day or two and then pick it up again, and that sort of thing, this is something you should definitely be looking into. It's a good